We're good? Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our March 25th Township meeting. In attendance tonight, we have Supervisor Erler, Supervisor Ekman, Supervisor Albert, Supervisor Friedman, and I'm Supervisor Birmingham. So we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. The agenda has been passed out. You can find copies of the agenda on the podium. Have all the supervisors seen tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Yes. Does there need to be an amendment to the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to amend the agenda so we can move item number 7 up to item number 5, please.
Okay. And we're doing that so Fidelity does not have to stick around all night and listen to political ramblings. Unless, of course, you guys want to, you're welcome to. We've got water, we've got scotch in the back. So. Oh, I should have said that. Can we, we'll start this meeting over. Stavros, I apologize.
I'll second that motion.
What, the whiskey or the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a second to amending the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to open it up for public comment. Before I do open it up for public comment, Mayor Derek Powell of East Bangor had passed away a little over a week ago. And I had the privilege of knowing the mayor, and he was a good guy. He fought for the people of East Bangor each and every day. He worked with our township in a couple of initiatives. He also came over during the pandemic and helped us hand out meals that were being served by Rustica Artisan, and was always there to lend a hand and participated in our 4th of July parades. And I really saw a man who loved a parade. That was the mayor. He loved bringing communities together, and it wasn't just about East Bangor, it was about the surrounding communities as well. He was a good neighbor, and he was a great man. So I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Mayor Derek Powell. Thank you very much. Okay, public comment. You have 3 minutes for a public comment. The timer's right up here. And when you do come up to the podium, just please speak into the microphone and give us your name and address. So that being said, who wants to make a public comment? I saw one hand. Oh, okay, come on up, Fred.
The usual suspect. Good evening. Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Tonight, I would like to offer some thanks and make a suggestion. I'd like to thank our township solicitor, Mr. Ron Karasek, Esquire, for going out of his way to provide written answers to some questions I asked at the March 4th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Supervisors, and thank our township secretary, Cindy Beck, for facilitating the process. Since Supervisor Birmingham was copied on the response, I assume he has or will share all the answers with his fellow supervisors, and the board will initiate any actions they deem necessary. Later in tonight's meeting, the agenda item RPL liaison is supposed to come up. Given the significant impact the development has, significant impact that the development of the RPL property could have on the town, it is important that the Board of Supervisors establish and maintain an effective communication channel with this large township owner and taxpayer that does not involve litigation. The idea of having at least 2 supervisor liaisons present at any meeting seems prudent. Before I say this, and I know what I'm asking, but I'm an eternal optimist and must offer this out-of-the-box suggestion. It would be a significant display of leadership from both sides if this board and former Supervisor Teal could meet to discuss this topic, as he has RPO liaison experience that the board might benefit from, and he would be afforded the opportunity to advocate for points that he thought are important. I'm not sure if his role on the planning commission would preclude this. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Fred. Anyone else, public comment? Oh, I am sorry, Cindy. Hold on 1 second, let me just reset this. Okay, Cindy, go ahead.
Okay, so honor roll, Upper Mount Bethel Township Supervisors. Unfortunately, I cannot be there in person this evening to advocate in support of our elected Board of Supervisors supporting County Executive Lamont McClure's repeal of the LERTA designation for the RPL project, as I'm required to attend a different meeting at this time. I've asked for this letter to be read during public comment to advocate for my support for the Board of Supervisors to support the rescinding of the current LERTA designation and replacing it with the new proposal. I believe this will provide both the county and our township additional tools to help mitigate the risk of this development falling to warehousing over job-producing manufacturing. In my reading of the proposal, this will give us, a township, some autonomy back to help manage the scope of this project. I think it is imperative that we as citizens, in support of our goal to ensure a thriving and sustainable future for Upper Mount Bethel, work together to support our board in taking a new approach to managing development in our town. Supporting this new LERTA proposal is a big step towards that end. Thanks for your time and consideration in this matter. Courtney Gilmore.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Courtney. Anyone else, public comment? Okay. Moving on. Announcement. First up is Denise Harda.
I don't want any grief. Denise Barter, River Road. Okay, I feel bad that my back is to you, so can you still hear me?
Yeah.
If I stand over here, okay.
Stavros, let me know if anyone's having trouble at home.
as well.
Okay. I don't like having my back to anybody. So, and I'm talking to you too, but I've been listening to this warehouse thing for a while now, and some of us are saying, yes, the cart was put before the horse, the whole thing. We have it, we're gonna have to work through it. I think our biggest asset for this township, and actually that could bring money to the township, is our river. I don't remember who said it. Somebody said it at a meeting that having a warehouse on the river side of the industrial park, when you're kayaking or rafting or doing something, the last thing you want to see is the back end of a warehouse. If tubers want to pull over and have a picnic lunch or something, they have a warehouse there. I don't know how much property they own, I don't really care. But we had the boat launch there, we had a really nice parking lot, there were picnic tables, people were allowed and able to use access to the river. We don't have that in this town. I called Smithfield Park, and I talked to a ranger there that I know for different reasons, but he said Smithfield opened up access to the river because Shawnee on the river used to have concerts and whatnot, and you had river access. So while people could swim or tube or go canoeing, they also could go in the river. They also had concerts there. We have the stacks there. Maybe we could, again, I don't know what kind of properties they own in that, but maybe we could make that an access for people, charge, like Smithfield charges X amount of dollars, let's say $10 for daily parking. They can picnic. You can have food trucks come in. You can have porta potties in. You can make some money for the township. They could go to Cindy and buy a seasonal pass, and they can park there and get access to the river. I can't tell you how many people come to my farm from out of town, and they want to know where they can go to get into the river. I either have to send them to Belvedere, or I have to send them to Stroudsburg. They can't go through 611, so they have to get back on 80 to get to Shawnee. By the time they get there, or to Smithfield, it's all booked up. Smithfield brought in 1 week, $1,500, 4th of July weekend, just on parking. Had nothing to do with food trucks or anything like that. I called them, I spoke with them. So we know these warehouses are coming, so let's just move on from it. Unfortunately though, it's a lot with the septics for that. And I don't know, again, did anybody look into doing individual septics per warehouse? Was that something that was looked at? Because if you have, each warehouse has their own septic, you have less warehouses going in there, which might not be so overwhelming to the area. Do I still have time?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're under announcement, so.
Okay. I was afraid he was going to throw the gavel at me. Okay, so let me go to my next thing. The reason I said about the porta potties, and even at the park, I mean, the posts are doing a wonderful thing by doing bathrooms. Who's going to clean them? I mean, we have to think of this stuff. Sure, you could put bathrooms up, but at that park, who are you going to have designated to go in there and clean them? You're going to have to hire somebody. In my time, or years ago, community service, you had to go clean bathrooms. So maybe we could call the local magistrate and say, listen, we're having bathrooms up here. Could we maybe do a community service, like for first-time offenders, and they have to clean the park or clean the bathrooms? The other thing I was thinking about was, at the river, if we were allowed, or if RPL wanted to, they could maybe make it their own personal park, that their employees from the warehouse could go there, but then also open it up to the public. Both people would benefit, RPL and Mount Bethel. People would have the access to the river. You could get food trucks, or call like some of the local people around here who have food and ask them if you want to set up. Open it up to concerts. Shawnee has the pavilion right on the river there. They have a sign-up sheet, and every Tuesday, people would come with blankets and chairs and whatnot. They'd pay $10 to park, and they'd sit and have a concert. If they wanted food, they could buy off the food truck. Then they would pass a basket around for tips for whoever was the band or whatever. So that's another thing that I was thinking of for, I'm understanding that these warehouses are for bringing in tax revenue and all that, and to help the community. But it's not really helping us in the sense that we're going to lose access to the river. We're going to lose a lot of what we came here for, was the beauty of the place. Now, with these warehouses, we have a real problem with trees and power lines. So as a suggestion, you did a great thing having the surrounding mayors or representatives from different towns come in and listen or send a representative to hear, you know, and tell us what their needs are. We have so many tree service places in this township. Why not put a call out, ask them to send a representative from each tree place, sit here and say, listen, ask our tax lady, could we give them a discount on tax? Or could we pay their garbage bill for the year? Something, and then in exchange, they help cut the trees back. And I'm trying to watch, I don't swear. I don't want to hear about that they can't touch the wires and that. That's baloney, because every one of them has to be insured, and every one of them has to cut by wires, because you have wires that go from the street to the house. So when they say, oh, you can't touch, you know, that's baloney. So that might be a way of helping get, because when you start having this truck traffic, those old limbs are gonna fall, and it's gonna be power out after you get it. Now the other thing we could do with this, and I'm not sure, I called Pentec and I spoke to the landscaping and forestry unit. They would have to really sit and talk with us. But they have a forestry department, and a lot of their seniors, for their resumes, need to go to a town or go somewhere and do like trimming of trees or forestry work. Could we maybe as a township, and I don't know again what the deal is with that, but call Pentec and say, look, we need help cutting trees back. We need, you know, dead wood pulled away. Call them. We have so many services. We just need to call them and ask them, what's the worst they say? No? You know, I mean, every person I called to ask them, so I didn't sound stupid, was very helpful. So that, you know, that was the other thing. And again, as far as the insurance liability thing, there's a lot of insurance companies out there. We have a couple right here in town. Have them work with us. Say, look, we need this, you know, for our township. Can you work with us? I'm almost done, I promise. And then I'm out of here. Yeah, so basically, oh, that was the other thing about there's a big thing going around with squatters, okay? I don't know if anybody heard about this and that, but they are now coming, and these squatters are going into empty houses, empty warehouses, empty businesses. If they can prove they're there for 30 days, by having just a piece of letter mailed to them with that address, you have to fight them to get them out. So with the warehouses, I believe the gentleman said they have 3 of them already rented out or whatever. Could there be a way of saying no more building until you absolutely have a tenant? Otherwise, if we have a bunch of empty warehouses, you're gonna have a hell of a lot of people if they hear that. I mean, I don't wanna scare anybody or anything, but I'm just blowing off steam. So anyway, so that was that. And I guess that's about it. Individual septics, again, I think if everybody had their own, and that was another thing, if you have a warehouse coming in and they're pharmaceutical, they're gonna need a different kind of septic system than this guy. So again, to make it less warehouses, let each one of them have their own septic system. My thing is the access to the river. I think our river is one of our best assets, and when everybody comes over the bridge, they look at that beauty. Now they're gonna come over that bridge and see the ass end of a warehouse, and they're gonna be like, you know, it's just another warehouse. There's warehouses in Academy that they've already had to scare some people out. So you have to wonder about this, and I know that because my son's in the building, and, well, he's not in the building, but he's there, so he knows things. That's it.
Thank you,
You're gonna
Denise.
gavel me out?
No. Anybody have any questions for
Don't
Denise?
anybody yell at me.
Supervisors, any questions? Okay, thank you, Denise. And Denise is the owner of Barta Farms right on River Road. So if you ever want to go by for some good produce or you need flowers, check out Denise.
And don't bring any big trucks.
Supervisor Erler, do you have any announcements?
Yes, after the success of the last office hours that were held at TK's, we had over 12 people there. I had it with Mr. Birmingham. I'd like to offer another set of office hours at TK's on Tuesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m. I encourage anyone that wants to come and anything that's on your mind relating with the town or even not relating to the town. If it's something I can address or you think I might need a concern and you don't want to say it in public comment, I'm here to listen.
And what time are your office hours?
7 till when everyone leaves.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan.
If any supervisor wants to tag along, I'm all for it.
Okay. Supervisor Ekman, any announcements?
Not at this time.
Okay. Supervisor Albert?
No, not at this time.
Supervisor Friedman?
Yes, today, Mr. Grassi and I sat down and we went over the books for the Upper Mount Bethel Fire Company. And we also went over the finances for North Bangor Fire Company. And everything was in good shape. I would just like to be in the future that, this is probably a question for Mr. Karasak, that can we stipulate that any of the fire tax has to be put into a separate checking account? Because Upper Mount Bethel already does it. I'm pretty sure that Bangor already does it, but I just want to make sure that that stays like that for the future, because it makes it much easier to go over the books when they're not intermingled with other monies coming into the fire company. So that's the only announcement I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple announcements from me. We have the free recycling day coming up. It's going to be April 14th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's at the Chelsea Sun right here in Upper Mount Bethel. You can get all the information is on the Township Facebook page or my Facebook page. It's free recycling, and give me a second. So you can bring desktop and laptop computers, monitors, keyboards, all types of TVs, printers, fax machines, copiers, cables, cords, DVD players, VCRs. If you still have a VCR out there from the 70s, you can recycle it. Calculators, adding machines, and they'll also take microwave ovens. And it's free, you can drop it off. All we do ask though is for a donation of any amount, and that donation will go to the Joanna family who lives here in Upper Mount Bethel. Mark Joanna is suffering from cancer, and it's kept him out of work since last December, and their family could use the help. So donation of any amount, and even if you don't have any recycling to do, if you want to just stop by the Chelsea Sun April 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. Just to make a donation, that would be great as well. Nick and I met with Susan Wild's office, Congresswoman Susan Wild's office, with Megan Best, who's the director for, I think it's for Northampton County, her Northampton County office.
I think she's actually the office, yeah.
Is she chief of staff?
I think she is, yeah.
Okay,
She has,
okay.
yeah.
So we are working on grants for North Bangor fire department and trying to get an emergency shelter over at the North Bangor Fire Department. The Mount Bethel Emergency Shelter, they're gonna start working on that and building that finally. We had to take a step back as during the pandemic slowed everything down. Supplies went up, we had to wait a while, but we are able to now move forward, so we're gonna start building the emergency shelter this fall. We were talking about a community meeting where we invited the neighboring communities to come and talk about the development. I saw Chief Potter come in. I don't know if he's still, oh, there you are, Chief. Chief came up to me and spoke to me and said, yeah, let's have another community meeting and let's talk about an ambulance. So Chief, I want to get with you. Let's pick out a date and we'll get the communities to come together and talk about emergency services.
Thank you.
Sure. And Jesse Poliskowitz got in touch with me. You know how he does the farming up at the park?
I'll call him.
Okay.
Yeah, he called me and, I don't think that's gonna happen this year because we bid it out. So, but we could talk offline about that.
Okay.
I'll call Jesse, I forgot to call him.
Okay.
That's my bad.
And there's an online trafficking webinar tomorrow night, and you can get all the information on my supervisor Facebook page. It's going to have experts in that deal with sex trafficking, and basically helps parents to understand how to talk to their children about predators and pedophiles online who may target young children, and basically how to communicate with their child to warn them who and who not to speak to online. It's a free webinar. It's hosted by the New Jersey Coalition Against Sex Trafficking. If you want the information, just go to my supervisor page. And last thing is going to be working on our next community-wide yard sale. We did one last year. I'll have the dates coming up soon. The one we did last year was a big success, and we'll do it again this year. I think that was your idea, Denise, wasn't it? Denise comes up with great ideas. Nick, over to you for any announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The segue off of that meeting we had with Congresswoman Wild, we applied for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, they call it NIFWIF for short, $600,000 for the preserve. And there were several support letters, so I want to publicly thank them all for sending those letters in. And the first one was Congresswoman Susan Wild, State Senator Lisa Boscola, State Representative Ann Flood, LEIPC Becky Bradley, she's the Executive Director, County Exec Lamont McClure, Borough Portland Stephanie Steele, Vice President of the Board, and Slate Belt Rising Brian Maker. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, Brian, if you're listening. He's the Director. And of course, our own Laura Bacco for Open Space, that were sent letters in for the preserve. And I'm going to get into that. Obviously, you see on the agenda, there's a lot that we have to talk about with the preserve. Also, a lot of people have come up to me about the bridge closing on 6/11. That's going to happen on April 2nd. I spoke with Grace Industries, who's actually doing the project. I spoke with PennDOT. The detour is going to be Richmond Road down to Martins Creek, Belvedere Corner Road. So, and that will be, someone asked, I forget who it was, I think it was Richard, about trucks, and that's what the traffic is going to go through Richmond Road down to Martins Creek. That's for truck and for personal vehicles. It does say till November, but when I spoke to Grace Industries, don't get excited. November is their dead end date, so which means after that they start getting fined. So they think they're going to be able to complete it if the weather is good by June. So let's pray that there's good weather and they get that done, no delays. But it should be, she said they're trying to get it done by June. middle of June. So let's see. But I just want to let anybody know, and if you need any information about it, I have a sheet from Grace Industries that explains it. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but we're the only ones in this area that didn't get a letter for whatever. We abut the, Washington Township, but just want to keep everybody up to date with that. I think that's it, Mr. Chair. Because I got a lot to talk about, so I think we'll.
Nick, do you want to mention the Community Cleanup Day on April 27th?
Oh, yeah, April 27th. We said, what, 9 o'clock to like 1?
Yeah, 9 to 12. We're going to meet here at the Township Building at 8:30 a.m. And it's April 27th, which is a Saturday. And we'll clean up from like 9 to 12. And then you had looked at a couple of roads, if you want to mention which roads were.
Yeah, right now, I think we said it's going to be right out front, the old highway and Sand Pit, Allegheny and River Road. I mean, they're long roads, so it might be, but if anybody has a suggestion, you can call, let us know. And if you have anybody who wants to volunteer, anybody's going to get points or anything for their whatever organization they belong to, have them called down here. We have room for everybody, so plenty of vests. Like I said, it'll be the 27th. Hopefully, it'll be good weather. But this is also with the Slate Belt Rising. So other communities are doing this in this area for Earth Day. So it's a good project for everybody.
Yeah, and Air Liquide said they were going to participate as well, so they're going to send some employees. So any local businesses that want to get involved with helping clean up Upper Mount Bethel, just give our township secretary, Cindy, a call, and she'll get your name and number, and we'll get you all the information. Or just show up here April 27th, 8:30 a.m. We'll have some coffee, bagels, and donuts, and then we'll go clean. And yeah, I think that was it.
I think that's
Township Secretary Beck, any announcements? No code red? Sign up on Code Red. And they can get Code Red by going to our township website. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next item on the agenda, and that's Fidelity Bank. Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Last month, Supervisor Friedman and Nick and I all met with Adam Wiggins and his team down at Fidelity Bank, just to look in our municipal asset management and try to get a good program going on and try to get, as I guess we could say, a bigger bang for our taxpayers' money on some of the accounts we had. Nick had, the process was actually started with the previous township manager, but was never set through. So we're going to go over some of the highlights of that meeting and discuss it with the board.
Thank you, supervisors, for inviting us. My name is Adam Higgins. I'm the Wealth Relationship Manager for Fidelity Bank here in the Lehigh Valley. I work for our trust department, and this is Ryan McGowan, our government banker. So really appreciated the meeting that we had with Supervisor Friedman, Supervisor Albert, and Mr. Graziano. So we talked about some things that we could do for the township with some excess funds that you do have. And just to kind of highlight some of the things that we offer the township, I just want to talk a little bit about our department. Because we are part of a trust department, we're considered fiduciaries, which means any of the products I offer the township, I do not receive any commissions for. I'm a salaried employee of the bank. My only goal is to make sure that my clients are satisfied and we do the right thing for them. And of course, we do this for a lot of townships, not only down here in the Lehigh Valley, but also up in the greater Scranton area. And if you need any references, we'll be happy to provide them for you. One of the first services that we provide at no cost to the township was the development of what's called an investment policy statement. If you open your package, right behind here is a sample investment policy statement. If you have some of the handouts, I kind of gave extra to the supervisors in our meeting last month. You have them here. So what an investment policy statement does is it's an agreement between the township and an eventual provider of what the provider's duties are. What kind of rules we have to follow, make sure that we are compliant with Act 10, and we're acting in the township's best interest. So it kind of discharges the actual management of the assets from you to whatever provider you charge. If you look at the investment policy statement, you're not going to recognize the name Fidelity Bank because it's not in there. This is portable, and you could use this if you would like to interview other providers as a basis of an agreement you would have with them. So discharging those duties means that your provider would have to follow whatever is in here and provide reports to you on an ongoing basis. So what we went ahead and did is we did a tentative investment policy statement for the township, which you can review, make any adjustments, and we'll be happy to work with you to make sure that we have one that's compliant with state law and is in your best interests. So that's one of the first things we did. Second thing we did is we put together a couple of proposals for several of your accounts. In that process, we identified some of your goals, your risks, and your opportunities in the organization. And we kind of built a portfolio based on that, which is Act 10 compliant, so that we can reduce inflation risks, put you in things that are guaranteed interest and capital, and kind of move forward that way. So a couple of the funds that we looked at, and if you go to page 6, one is for the open space funds. So with this and our review of the investment policy statement, we kind of looked at your time horizon and built a model portfolio of what that would look like. Pretty much most of the assets would be invested in U.S. Treasuries, which are guaranteed by the taxing power of the United States government and also has a guaranteed rate of return. So if you go to page 7, we put together another sample portfolio for excess funds you had for your road machinery fund, and that is also, for the most part, invested in Treasury bills. And we did the same if you go to page 8 for your general fund. The assets invested as currently written would probably give you excess of an extra $140,000 a year in interest returns. The other thing it will do is, because we are in a rate environment which will be decreasing at least sometime in the summer, we have some longer term assets out there which will kind of fix you into whatever the rates are today. So if we start to look at some U.S. Treasuries, we have you in for like 24 months, 36 months. The rate today is probably going to be better than if we look at this years down the road. So it's kind of giving you that. And also we have some short-term funds in there, our 3-month bill, 6-month bill, 12-month bill, so that we have a little flexibility to kind of take advantage of current interest rates for the short term. So it's kind of a very prudent plan put together. It is Act 10 compliant, and it is a liquid portfolio. If for some reason you need access to the funds, you can get access to it. So it would only take us a few days to liquidate it and get it back into your checking account for whatever needs you have. And one of the things that we do is we are a relationship business, so we will be meeting with either select members of the supervisors or the supervisors as a whole, just to go over where we're at, how your assets are doing, and what you need to do in the future. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we've done for you and what we'd like to do for you. Now, we've also put together a couple of resolutions that if you do want to go forward with us, We've used them before as a sample for other townships we've worked with, and if they meet with your solicitor's approval, you could use those as a template as well. So if you did want to move forward, one of the first things I would advise doing is reviewing the investment policy statement, making sure that it meets your satisfaction, and then moving that to a vote and approving it. After that, it would be to approve us as your provider, the amounts that you'd like to put into the various accounts, and then also approving whatever signers you want on there. And as part of the relationship business, once we kind of onboard you, the first thing I'm going to do is find out how often you'd like to meet. You know, minimally, we should probably meeting at least twice a year, but if you would choose to meet more frequently, we of course will be happy to do that for you. So, is there any questions that Ryan and I can answer?
Any questions from the supervisors?
Would there be any penalty if liquidation was needed?
There would be no penalty.
I think the other thing to address too is when you look at page 5, when you look at the yield curve, and if you look at the timeline, really there, you look at the timeline that proposed from 1 month to basically 5 years. You see that steady kind of drop. And one of the reasons why we came to Nick and to Jason to talk about this was looking at taking advantage of this now as opposed to when rates drop, maybe potentially in the future, and locking some things up from that from that vantage point. And really, the reality is, we just broke this off of just some discussions we had. You can look at different opportunities here as far as a laddered portfolio is kind of what was suggested. So having things come off maybe every 3 or 6 or 9 months. You may say, hey, we'd rather maybe go longer than that. All this is able to be, adjusted per, what the township would look at and seeing is, hey, this is what we feel is best for us moving forward. Given whatever dollars coming in on a yearly basis, whatever expenditures you currently have or expenditures you could have in the near future. So this is all really portable. It can change, based upon what you feel is best, especially too then in the investment policy statement. Adam talked about Act 10. That's what we're bound by here for investments, what the township is bound by. So we're not going to, suggest anything that is outside of Act 10. We can't. So you have your deposits, which encapsulate Act 72 and the collateralization, and then on the investment side, you would have this Act 10. So if, we just want to kind of put that out there that this is just an example. We can change things for the township's liking or how they see fit moving forward. But I thank everyone for giving us some time tonight, and if there are questions, we'd be more than glad to answer.
Okay.
And just another, with the investment policy statement, the liability for any mismanagement would actually be on your provider's part. So if we act non-compliant with it, you do have legal recourse to, hold us accountable.
Thanks, Ron. Any questions on your end?
No, I've dealt with Fidelity in other situations, and in fact, I believe that my mother's account was with them when she was alive, so I have no questions.
Okay. And any townships or municipalities close to us that could be a possible reference?
Yes, we do Penargil and Nazareth.
Yeah, we could actually, I could get you some names and contact information after the meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll share them with Nick and have Nick just.
That'd be great.
We have a number of
Thanks.
customers.
We have a few down here in the Lehigh Valley, even more the Scranton area.
Okay, yeah, let us look through this, and then let's meet on it. How long do you guys think you need to look this over? Can you look at it by the 8th, do you think?
I think, Ron should look at the resolution that they drew up.
Yeah, does Nick have a copy of the resolution?
Did you send it in the email, Adam?
Yes, I sent it,
I have it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I sent it to everybody.
Yeah.
I have a question though.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a silly question or not, but you're saying there's no penalties. So with treasuries, so say we have a treasury for 3 years and in a year, they're flying, they're going up. could we sell and go get another, and go into another treasury that's at 8% or whatever, just a hypothetical?
It would trade at whatever the value of that treasury is. Would we probably predict in 3 years that treasury rates will be going up? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but does that make sense, what I'm saying, that
Yeah, that
you
makes
can do
sense.
that?
We can do that, because also don't forget, because it is laddered, you actually have shorter term treasuries coming off.
Mm-hmm,
So if we have like a 90-day treasury, a 6-month treasury coming off, and all of a sudden, we're seeing that, as long as it's compliant with the investment policy statement, that, hey, the 24-month is really a great rate,
yeah,
then we're going to invest in that.
right,
So
Okay.
because of the frequent, that's why the frequent laddering comes into play, is that
right,
we could take advantage of whatever the rate situation happens to be
Right.
at that time.
Provides great flexibility for you, have something coming every 90 days.
right, right, right.
And,
Every 90,
Yeah.
120 days, so, from a rate standpoint, we might be able to take advantage of, as stuff comes off and saying, hey, remember, you're gonna go back and buy at the later date, you're not gonna buy at a shorter date, so, right now, the Fed, the rate is, kind of inverted, so in most, times it is, as you go out longer, rates are higher.
Higher, yeah,
So, as things kind of settle, we use that opportunity to do something of that nature. And really, as I said, the flexibility of having the ability for things to come off every 90 days really provides. One, if you have an unencumbered expenditure that comes up,
Right.
truck rates, a road, something happens with the road or something,
Mhm.
you have that ability then to have those dollars coming back to you.
mm-hmm,
You still earn interest on them, from that.
mm-hmm. I mean, the projections are that interest rates are probably gonna be going down,
uh,
what they're looking at.
yeah,
that's
it's
the-
just the
the signs.
eventuality of when it'll happen.
That's if you believe Jerome Powell.
I don't believe anything he says.
He-
I look at the signs.
Well, I will say this, the Fed is being very prudent right now.
Yeah.
As to not lowering them, only to have them raised again in case inflation goes back up. So,
Right, right.
Everybody's kind of saying sometime in the summer, it will be sometime this year. I think it's probably going to be later rather than sooner.
Right. All right.
All right, well, thank you,
Thanks.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thanks for
time.
coming, guys.
Thank you.
Cindy, if we could put that on for April 8th? Okay, thank you, Fidelity. Moving on, we have the Preserve Grant, DCNR resolution. Nick?
All right, Mr. Chair, do you want me to just continue on, or do you want to keep?
Yeah, why
Plugging
don't
me
you
in,
just
'cause
go
it's-
all, yeah, but make sure you introduce when you're going on to
Yeah.
a new topic.
Right, so the first one is, both of these grants are for the preserve. The first one is the DCNR resolution. These are already, basically, they were approved when we signed on with Simone Collins for the preserve. So everybody knows that we're all moving forward with the preserve and Eastern Industries. This is now, we're in the grant stage. It's gonna take time, but there's time frames that you have to apply for the grants, and this is the time for the federal grants, so we're moving forward. But these grants probably won't come to fruition until 2026. So we're gonna be sitting pat for a while, and the federal government makes you stop, as we all know. Anyway, so the first one is for the DCNR grant. That one is for $600,000. And that is a resolution that the board needs to approve, and then I think it's going to be signed by, I guess it would be signed by you, John, I guess, for the grant to go in. This one, I think, is for April. This has to be approved, so this goes with the package that's going to DCNR. Any questions on that?
And this is for the DCNR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have any questions. Any questions from the supervisors?
No.
So, we need a motion now,
Yeah, just need a motion for the minutes.
and I make a motion that, we pass the resolution to preserve grant DCNR.
Okay, I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay, Jason seconds it. Any questions, any discussion?
That was what, 600,000?
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next one is the grant for the DCED resolution, and that one is for $250,000 from the Commonwealth, Pennsylvania. So that again is the same situation. We're applying for this for the preserve, and we just need an approval from the board so we can move forward with the resolution.
Okay, do we have a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pass the preserve grant DCED resolution.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay,
Nick?
thank you, Mr. Chair. So the third one is for Carroll Engineering, wetlands delineation and topographic survey. So, at the recommendation of Simone Collins, when you're doing grants, you have to give a list of your expenditures and what have you, all the documents, all the work that you've done. And the easiest way to do this is to have Carroll Engineering be the overseer of all the work that's being done. So it's one person handing over everything to Simone Collins, and then we can send it off to all the different grantors. So Simone Collins we put together a topographical, we need a topographical survey, and that's going to be done by Scott Palicelli, who will be subcontracting under Carroll Engineering. And then there's also going to be a delineation that is going to be done by, what's his name, Brian? What's his name, Laura? Oh, Keats, Kevin. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Kevin, if you listen. That's going to be Kevin Keats. And so the Kevin Keats is going to be $16,630. And then the one for Scott is $19,700. So again, this just has to be approved by the board of supervisors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all of this, I'm sorry. Good point, Mr. Freeman. All of this money is coming out of the open space money. It has nothing to do with the general fund. This is all open space articles, right? So up to number 4 in action items is all open space.
And how much money do we have in open space? offhand?
About 2.2 million. And we're owed $22,000 from the state. God bless them. They're holding out for 2 months now. I've been on the phone with them like 3 times a week. And also we have to get money from Northampton County. We're owed about $50,000 for a project that we did with one of the properties. And there was mistakes from Heritage that we've corrected, and that money we'll be getting that too. So we're owed about $70,000. If anybody has any questions.
So this document that we have in our packet,
Simone Collins?
yeah,
Yeah.
this is the proposal, right?
Yes.
And is Simone Collins, are they, like, I'm trying to figure out the parties. Carroll Engineering,
See, the county stipulates that all the bills have to go to one entity.
yeah.
And the reason we're getting Carroll Engineering out of it, they will be like a general contractor, and everything will be subbed under them.
So, Ron, do you think they should be a signatory on this proposal? Carroll Engineering?
Carroll Engineering had sent with at least part of the proposal a letter of March 11, 2024, that indicates that we have reviewed the bid, recommend awarding the contract. I'm sorry, that's another.
That's a different one, Ron.
Yeah, that's a different one. Hold on for a second. Yeah, Carroll Engineering, February 23,
Yeah,
where he proposed the project and in fact indicate scopes of services, et cetera. So I'm not sure if signing, I'm not sure what agreement we're signing in the sense of agreeing, because you're gonna have to agree to Simone Collins, and you're gonna have to then also agree to the letter with respect to Carroll Engineering, and then you're also gonna need to agree and sign off on the Environmental Consulting Services, Inc. So there are gonna be signatures on all three, so I'm not sure what additional signature we might need.
so I'm looking at the proposal with Simone Collins. And I guess they're the subcontractor,
No.
no?
So Simone
They
Collins
would be
is
the
doing,
general.
was approved by the board to do the grants.
Okay,
That's it. He's not charging anything to do this. He's just,
Oh, all right.
he's just proposing that we use Carroll Engineering,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Carroll Engineering is our, Justin is our engineer, that they will oversee the project.
got it.
So this is a start of the project, which
Okay.
is the approximately, this 19,000 plus the 16,000. It could be upwards of, I don't know, 200,000 to get the engineering done and the trails done. That's gonna be all done by Carroll Engineering. All of the grants that we're applying for, they're matched grants, which means that we have to match the funding. So we only have to match one of the 600. So for argument's sake, the DCNR and the DC, and the ED will match each other because there's 600 and 600, so that's a match. But we're gonna have to come up with, for a NIFWIF, they will accept the money that we spend on getting the preserve, the delineations, any kind of work that engineering did, that will apply towards their grant, the 600,000. All right, so they'll use that money, they'll accept that, but the other grants won't. So we're also gonna be applying for $100,000 from Northampton County, and also if the state is 250, so we have to match that. So approximately 600,000 is gonna be spent out of the open space fund, the rest will be granted, which is 1.3 million, don't hold me to the exact number. So the whole project's about 2,100,000, which the board already approved.
Yeah. All right, forget my question, Ron. I got it now.
I see that it's consulting and labor fees. This doesn't include materials?
Materials will be paid for with open space money. Is that your question?
So that's gonna be above what's?
Yeah, there's a whole scope, all the money that's coming from the grants will be paying for all of these projects. For, decking, for, the
Yeah, I
ADA
see.
accessible thing, that's all paid for
Water
with.
pipes are needed.
Yeah,
cement
yeah.
work.
Justin's firm will only be doing the survey, will work with the surveyors and do the site planning. This is
So
all planning
My question
stages.
to you is, this is just for consultation and labor?
And planning, if
And-
that's, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan, we have to propose a plan to the grantors, say this is what we're spending our money on. And then once we get the okay, we could start spending money and move forward.
So what do you need the motion for?
We need a motion just to approve that you're gonna okay with with Carroll Engineering overseeing all of this.
Okay,
And he gave the proposal, the two Scott Policelli and Keats, to let you know this is where we're starting. That's not the end, you know, that's the start.
Yep.
It could be upwards of 200,000.
Okay.
The thing you have to understand is when you apply for these grants and stuff, they want to see plans and everything else. You know, you just can't say, well, we may want to do this, we may want to do that.
Yeah.
They want to see plans and everything else before they issue these grants.
Yep.
And then, so that being said, I'll make a motion that we appoint Carroll Engineering as a consultant for the wetlands delineation topographical survey for $36,330.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nick?
All right, the second one is, the fourth one, I'm sorry, is open space conservation easement. We can't name the property yet, but it's listed on the actual document. I'll read that out loud. This is from our chairwoman, Laura Bacco. To Open Space Advisory Board would like to recommend property for conservation easement, parcel number D1287A. The owners applied for the conservation easement last year. The Open Space Advisory Board visited the property and noticed vernal pools, wetlands, and other features which gave the property a good marking. The property is adjacent to other conserved properties, which adds value to the ranking. Heritage Conservancy also visited the property of Indian Valley appraisals the property in the fall. The expected total cost is $114,100 for the easement, in which the township will be responsible for $63,575. For the remaining funding of $50,525, which will apply for funding to Northampton County's Livable Landscapes Grant. It is a sense of the Open Space Board Heritage Conservancy that the county will approve the grant money for the property. The property had a Pennsylvania Natural Diversity Inventory hit, which is PINDY, under the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, which is a good thing for that property owner. And it says, thank you for your consideration, respectively, Laura Bacco. And Laura is actually present if there's any questions.
Do supervisors have any questions for Laura? Any discussion? Okay. Now, Nick, do we need to make a motion
Yes.
to put this property?
And that being said, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the open space conservation easement for property number, parcel number D1287A, in the amount of $63,575.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just one question for Solicitor Karasek. I think I believe, I might have been mistaken, that we need a resolution, correct, or no?
You should have a resolution. Did we not get a template from the Nature Conservancy or something on these before?
Did we get it, Laura?
I think
We
so.
have one? Okay. We could bring that to the board to get that signed, but, so we should have, do we need a vote for the resolution, or?
No,
Just
because you
approved.
don't have the resolution yet. So you
Okay.
just vote to approve the project as per
Okay.
Ms. Bacco's letter, and then when the resolution is finalized, you would then vote on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll put the resolution on April 8th, please. Okay, Scantech, Nick.
Yes, Scantech. This is for, we've used them before, they're for documents. Cindy's got another pile of like 10 boxes, so we started wanting to get ahead of this because we're running out of room. So we did another proposal, and we had him come down here, gave us an estimate. We're very happy with his services. They're very professional and trustworthy, so we'll read the amount.
Have we worked with these guys before?
Yeah. So for the record, the total cost of charges is $5,143. So it's a matter of a discussion, if anybody has any questions, and if we want to use them again. But we need some kind of document preservation. And they're co-stars, right, Cindy? The co-stars, so they're approved to do document preservation. That's a requirement from the state.
So is this 10 boxes? Do I have that right?
Yes.
25,000 images?
Approximately, I think.
Any questions from the supervisors? Do we have a motion to go with Scantech and their proposal, which totals the amount of $5,143?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve for the Stan Tech document conservation proposal in the amount of $5,143.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Nick, advertise for material bids.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. So, we already have these in place, ready to go tomorrow with Justin. He's put the actual bids together. We just need you guys to approve going advertising for these materials. It's a common thing that we have to do every year. Advertising for material bids such as stone, different size stones and stuff like that. And also, well, I don't want to commingle both of them, but blacktop, things like that.
Any question from the supervisors? Do we have a motion to advertise for material bids?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Advertise for line painting and seal coat bids, Nick.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's basically the same thing. Do line painting, the double yellow lines and the white lines. Every year, we have to bid that out. And the seal coat bids, like I said, we're gonna have a lot of projects this year. I think the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken, I mentioned we had an issue with the liquid fuels, but we did get that money on record, just to let you know, we did get that money deposited yesterday, actually, I think it was. So we're all whole with the liquid fuels money. But we have to advertise this again because the cost of the line painting and the seal coat bid. So again, we need your approval to go out and advertise. And Justin's, again, has these all ready to go tomorrow.
Okay. Do we have a motion to advertise for line painting and seal coat bids?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do you have how much the line painting was for last year?
$131,000.
Any other discussion? Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nick.
Now I spend all that money, now you're gonna talk about how much I could spend.
Well, that's a great segue into our next agenda item. Township manager spending limit. So, in the past, the current way we have it now, the township manager has discretionary funds of $10,000 per month to spend on what the township manager feels is best for the township. In order,
If I could jump in, Mr. Chair?
what's that?
It's 10,000 per project or per bill?
Per bill,
Yeah.
sorry,
Sorry about that.
per bill. We've had questions from residents about that, about, managerial discretion or indiscretion and what we should be doing about that and whether we're going to amend this amount and whether we want to go over 10,000, under 10,000. So that's why it's on the agenda for us to discuss it as supervisors. Do we want the township manager to have a set price where anything over 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 has to come to the supervisors for a vote? So that's the reason it's on the agenda, so I'll open it up for discussion.
Maybe we should put a higher limit, and if it goes near that limit, then the chair and the treasurer should be notified.
Well, Nick, why don't you explain to the people in certain situations in which you need to make an immediate decision?
A perfect example is the highway machinery. So last year, our 4-ton mason dump, which we only have one, we will be having 2 once the other one is finished, but last year, we had to spend $8,400, and I needed to make a decision to get it fixed. In situations like that, when you're talking about trucks that are gonna be worth $300,000, I gotta make a quick decision sometimes, in that case. So 10,000, if you, more or less, it's needed. I'm always in touch with Dave Freeman. He's our liaison, so I always call him. I'm always in touch, and same like with the garage doors. I spoke with him. I said, because it was $20,000. I spoke with him and to see what he thought, and so there's a lot of transparency with this board. Just if that's what I'm trying to get at, and that's how I operate. So, but I'm willing to do whatever the board is willing to do. But just realize that things are getting more expensive, not less, not cheaper. So 10,000 right now is working fine. If you want to change it, that's fine. If you ask me for a recommendation, I will leave it at the 10,000. If you want me to check with Dave Freeman when I'm spending over that, that's fine. I'll do whatever the board needs to do. It's the taxpayers' money. It's not mine. So I'm the fiduciary part of the administration, so I watch it every day. So that's my shtick.
Ron, and are there any issues with discretionary funding without a supervisor vote?
There's no issues if the board wishes to provide him a reasonable discretionary amount. I'm not crazy about the 10,000 per bill or per project, because that's, to me, could mean different things to different people. I'd rather say, this is your amount per month. However many projects there are, how many things are going on, this is your amount per month. If not, you need to come to the supervisors. And again, I don't mean you guys and gals to have to work longer than you need to, but you as the chair can call a supervisors meeting in 24 hours notice. If it's something that critical that you say, well, okay, we need to have a meeting on this because it's more than X number of dollars. So you have that ability, although it makes everyone have to jump through some additional hoops. But I would get away from the project or bill. I would just say this is so much per month, or however else you want to make that interval. It makes it much more clear.
Thank you, Ron.
My question to that is, like, our waste management bill is $110,000 a month. So
That's not discretionary.
well, that's what I'm saying. What are we talking? What discretionary is a big word. What are we talking about discretionary? We talking about our today we just had to pay $5,000 for workman's comp for the firemen. We talking about standard bills? Or are we just talking about something that's an emergency funding, or just clarification? That's all. Just so I know what I'm supposed to do.
We can't forget, I think the bid limit's now, what, 12.3?
What's that?
The bid limit is what, 12,300?
Yeah.
So you get up in that amount, it's gonna go for bid anyway. I would say it's something that the manager might need right away, like you said, a truck part or something.
And may I say, Mr. Chair, that I'm not necessarily limiting it to emergency items or things that must be done in some quick matter. I'm just saying whatever he wants to spend, he can spend up to this amount of money per month. And he can, in his discretion, decide whether it's an emergency or not emergency, but he should not be hampered with that emergency or immediate thing. He should be given the opportunity as the manager to decide up to X number of dollars what he needs to pay for the daily operation of the township.
Yeah, and what I think, Nick, is if you can put together, and I don't know if you can do this, but kind of what you spend per month or what you expect to spend per month, because
It's very difficult, I mean, excluding the bill list, I mean, because obviously that doesn't get paid until you guys approve it. So, I'm assuming we're excluding all of those expenses, those are our
Right.
monthly expenses, the payroll, all of that, okay? Like I said, and Dave said, good, is like 12,000, anything over 12,000, I need to get bids anyway, under that I don't. But I never spend any money or make a decision on that unless I speak with Supervisor Friedman. I always call him to bring it up, and just what, you know, like Ron is saying, we're available, you know, anytime. I mean, I'm out Sunday looking at a tree. That's my job. And if the board wants to limit me to less than 10, or I think we could still function as a township, it's not a problem, as long as we're all in a transparent mode. I'm fine with that.
And may I say one other thing, Mr. Chair, and then I'll be quiet. Obviously, you can, as the board, decide to do whatever you believe needs to be done. If it appears that it is not working out, the board meets twice a month. You can discuss the matter at a follow-up supervisors meeting to correct any speed bumps.
yeah, Mark, you had a point.
Yeah, John.
You got to come up to the podium, please.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court. Clearly, the town manager is going to need to have discretionary funds to deal with. I think instead of looking at an amount, you need to look at what are the management controls that you want to apply, and then how you're going to hold the manager accountable for what he's done. He's going to have to put justifications down before money. The fact that he talks to a supervisor, I think, is one good step. And if the amount goes up, he better be talking to perhaps more than one, or whatever you guys to set up. But it's your responsibility to put the controls on this, not necessarily the amounts.
I mean, I can give you a good example of what Mark is saying, is looking at the bathrooms. We're gonna get to that later. We had to bring the inspector in, and we looked at, while we're out there, we wanted to look at the pavilion. Well, the pavilion needs a lot of work, and it's emergency funding. We gotta get it done, because the way that it's set up right now is not proper. So I had to make a decision. It's gonna cost us $7,200 to fix that pavilion, and it has to be done immediately, and nobody should be using it until we get that fixed.
How much did you say, Nick?
$7,200.
7,200.
That's still under the 10, right?
Yeah.
It's under $10,000, but I spoke with Dave, and we talked about it, but it has to be done, because it's a safety issue.
I guess what my concern is, like the $10,000 limit per project, I think is fine, because we do have, you are transparent and we do have trust in you. If we go Ron's way and give a budgeted amount per month, I don't know, I would just be throwing a number out there, you know what I mean? I would say,
Right.
you got 100,000 a month, or you got 50,000 a month. I guess what I'm trying, I don't know how much he comes close to spending per month, or could come close to to spend it per month.
But the problem is now, when you get to the higher amounts, you gotta go through the bidding.
Right.
Perhaps what you can do is to see if Nick has the time to prepare a little accounting for you of, say, the last year.
Yeah,
And you can get an idea of this is what was spent in January, this was spent in February, this was spent in March.
yeah,
And then maybe make a decision in that regard. It's not my intent to restrict him from doing what he is doing. It's just my intent to make it more clear so there can be no issue. Now, if there's not been an issue to date, then maybe my comments are superfluous, but right now, that's, where I would suggest you maybe consider.
yeah. Yeah, it's up to the supervisors. I mean, if we trust that our township manager is transparent enough to communicate with Supervisor Friedman, then we keep it at the 10,000 per project. Or we ask Nick, which I think would be helpful, is have Nick come up with a short presentation of what he has spent in the last year or two, and then we kind of get an idea on a budgeted amount on a monthly basis.
And if it's gonna be, and he talks to me, I can say, John, we need a special meeting to discuss this issue that's come up, or I can talk to the treasurer, So why don't we ask him when he comes up with an average monthly cost, and maybe we can take it from there then.
Yeah, and do you think you could have that by the 8th, Nick?
They're pretty simple because I've only been manager for 6 months, so.
Well, then you want how much work to
What
do.
the former manager did, I have no idea.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, but, I mean, it's almost what Ron said, you gotta look at your past practice, and
We can't go to the past practice.
Yeah, my suggestion is with Supervisor Birmingham said, the 10,000 has worked, and I'm fine. I don't spend more than 10,000 discretionary. For argument's sake, with the garage doors, I got 3 bids presented to the board to get it approved and spent it. I wouldn't spend $20,000. I live here too. And I just want to make sure that the people know what we're spending. And so if I spent like with that $7,200, that I had to do that. That was an emergency. We got to get it done. Stavros's crew, they're getting that thing rented out. It's permitted. It can't be permitted right now. It cannot be permitted right now. I have to get it fixed so we can get that fixed.
Nick, what I would suggest is start submitting a manager's report now every month like Ron does.
Okay.
And within your report, just list out everything that you've used on these discretionary funds, how much they've cost, what they've been for,
Okay.
and that they've been communicated with Supervisor Friedman.
Excluding the bill list, excluding
yeah,
just stuff that I've spent money on,
Yeah.
that I've approved myself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Well, if that's what you want me to do, that's fine.
Any,
We just keep it at the 10.
yeah. What do you think, Jonathan?
I see no problem with the 10. If he's gotta get bids at 12,000, that only leaves $2,000 worth of room for him to even, for us to be taking this time up to discuss. I think leaving it as 10 is fine.
Jason?
yeah, I agree with that.
David?
Yeah, the 10. We'll try the 10. If it doesn't work out, we can always change it.
The only thing I might say is that if you wanted to make a monthly spending limit that he can't go above maybe 35,000 per month, just because we're not gonna have emergencies like that, but getting the list of the past expenditures would show a little bit more light on what that number should be.
Stavros, did you?
Two things.
And just give your name, Stavros.
Stavros Barbonis, Potomac Street, not Bethel. Two things. One, for the park. I know what it is. Can't we hold the original contractor responsible for not doing it to code? Really?
He did what the print specified for.
It wasn't completed.
Okay.
It was supposed to be internal. It ended up being outdoors.
I get it. I have to ask because,
I understand.
yeah. Second thing, I get what you guys are talking about, discretionary spending. regardless of what it is, the budget you approved covers incidentals, emergency items, whether it's equipment, electrical, park stuff. I understand what you're saying with discretion for approval, but wouldn't it go up to potentially what was already budgeted for within that line item? So you're talking about setting discretionary funds at an amount per month for a whole year. However, for instance, if it's park maintenance or park operations, if that's limited to 30,000 and it's $7,000 of fixed electrical and, you know, bathrooms, everything else, we come up to that 30,000, whether he has approval or not to spend 10,000 at his discretion, if it exceeds our budget line item, we don't have the money to spend. So I think as long as the budget allows for it, he can do what he needs to do. We allocate money based on that budget in the beginning of the year. I think that needs to be adhered to. If there's not enough money to cover expenses and we exceed it, then we're gonna have to move money from one line item to another. I think that's when it comes to you guys to say, we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I think that guides everything. Because if we don't budget for it initially, if it's an emergency, you're gonna have to move things. I think under emergency, you contact if we don't have the money in the budget. It makes sense. But if it's not an emergency, as long as we budgeted for it, I don't, you know, and it falls under 10,000, I think it should be permitted.
I'm under the assumption that this emergency spending would be not things that were included in the budget. If the
But
budget's
you
going
have to
allow it,
allocate for
you'd
all
use
potential
the budget
expenditures for a
money.
year, including emergencies in your budget.
Yeah,
That has to be done.
Nick will, when he does the budget, correct me if I'm wrong, but he'll put in like a little extra money to say, you know,
understand,
for, yeah, so I think that's what you're getting at, Stavros.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Stavros, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, you're talking about allocating a money per month. I think it's up to whatever the budget permits that you approved for the year. If it goes past that, then you're gonna have to meet to change the budget and move monies and do
Yeah.
transfers.
Right.
I think that clarifies what should happen.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
yeah, thank you,
You
Stavros.
know, if he starts spending $20,000 a month, we know we got a problem.
But again, it still has to fall within the budget line items.
Yeah.
If you exceed your
Right.
budget, then we won't, as a
Yeah.
taxpayer, I'm gonna want answers. I
Yeah.
think you're doing the right thing. You guys are doing the transparent thing. I just think you still have to adhere to the budget. I think
Right.
that covers you
Yeah,
under some of this, so. that's
yeah,
it.
thanks,
Thank you.
Stavros.
And
Yeah,
we-
and
and we will, Supervisor Birmingham, not now, but we will be addressing the budget at a later date to do what Stavros is saying. We can move money from one to another, but it has to be you that approves. I can't do that myself. I have to bring that to the board and move money. And there is money, in especially like Park and Recs and the Highway Department, because emergencies typically happen in the Highway Department, like it did last year. And Park and Rec, we have that big project coming up, and I'll talk more about that later. So money is gonna have to be moved, but we're in good shape right now. We'll be okay, as long as everybody pays their garbage bill like we're supposed to.
Yeah,
I had to say that, sorry.
all right, that gets one of those. And I think, you know, detailing everything on your manager's report will help as well.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that would
fine.
be a big help, and it would be great since the first quarter comes to an end at the end of this week, is in April. Just give the residents a little overview of how the first quarter went for us
Yeah,
in terms of
Expenditures?
expenses, yeah. Yeah, and if we could put that on the April, that would be 8th, 22nd, the 22nd.
22nd.
That would be great. Just do like a manager's first quarter report would be very helpful.
I think the budget should be reviewed at the end of the quarter also,
Yeah.
to see if we're falling, in the limits or whatever else.
I think
Still a
that'd be
little
great.
early, Doctor, I'm promoting him, Mr. Friedman, but I don't think you'll see much of a difference right now, but starting in the second quarter, we'll see what direction we're going in, especially the project will be starting with the bathrooms, and all the road work that we're gonna be doing, so.
Okay. All right, so moving on. Now we're under tabled items. intermunicipal agreement ordinance softball. Ron?
Yes, I've made the change to the intermunicipal agreement. I've sent it to Lower Mount Bethel Township for their approval. That change is, if you recall, last month it was decided that Township, Upper Mount Bethel Township, would pay for the cost of background checks, et cetera, for coaches and volunteer parents or others who volunteers may interact with minors. So I've made that change. I sent it to Ms. Mastro Giovanni, the secretary to Lower Mount Bethel Township, to make sure that their people agree with those changes, and if so, then we can sign the intermunicipal agreement, and the ordinance that I have adopted, or that I've prepared, could then be advertised for adoption. I haven't done that yet because I don't want to spend more money than necessary in repeating and repeating and repeating drafts of ordinances until I know Lower Mount Bethel agrees with that change.
Okay. Thank you for
So
the
I would
update, Ron.
just suggest you table it unless there's any other questions.
Any other questions from the supervisors? Do we have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion, we table the intermunicipal agreement ordinance softball resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is RPL liaison. So this is just to open up the discussion here, and what the supervisors want to do in establishing whether it's a supervisor, whether it's a resident, whether it's a group of residents, you know, who are we going to have, or do we even want a liaison between RPL and the supervisors in terms of when we're not having a meeting and it's during the week and RPL wants to give us a heads up on certain things? How do we want the communication to work between us and RPL? So I'll open it up for discussion.
All right, currently, I don't think we're on a very good foot with RPL, and there are clearly reasons why. But just something that I'd like to make apparent is that Lamtech, Mr. Post, donates hundreds of thousands of dollars to the town. Same with Air Liquide, and I believe getting on a good footing with such a developer that's coming in, taking 2% of our entire real estate, could really benefit the town in the future.
Yeah. I think we do need some sort of communication, right? And I know, Mark, we had established that group right in the beginning, and then it kind of went out to left field when RPL didn't want to talk. But Lisa Pector did say at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago maybe, that she was open for discussion. And, we try and open up the talks again, because the bottom line is they can build on the property at this point. And we don't want warehouses, right? We can live with manufacturing, but how do we get the discussion? And I don't know if it should be a supervisor, and I don't know if it should be anyone on a committee like zoning hearing or the planning commission, because we need to figure out how to have open communication and transparent communication. And maybe we try and establish a committee and call it the RPL Liaison Committee. Or maybe we think about it more. But that's my thought, is we need some kind of communication, because the last thing I want to see is for Pector to say, forget this, I'm just going to throw down, I get you, Joe, that I'm going to throw down warehouses and get out of here and move on to my next development. You know, so,
That's my biggest fear, because then we're gonna get all the truck traffic and none of the jobs. And I see that the jobs are what fund our open spaces committee with the EIT. So we all wanna preserve the land, and that is how we do it, is through EIT. So bringing a butt ton of high-paying jobs here, gives us the better ability to preserve more and keep the area beautiful.
well, Joe, why don't you come up? I know you wanted to make a point. Yeah, you just got to talk into the mic so people at home can hear you.
Joe Torrey, 535 Institute Road. Hey, you have 6 good sound men already with a committee, the Economic Development Committee. There you go. That's all I have to say.
Thank you,
You got
Joe.
'em.
Mark.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court. You want to look at this as a life cycle for the I-2 and the I-3 zone. In its infancy right now, you're going to be dealing with RPL, and we're going to be concerned about what kinds of businesses and things go in there. As this starts to mature and progress, okay, we're going to be concerned with dealing with the occupants of that site. Air Liquide, it's a huge company, okay? This facility hires its own PR firm, and they do meet with residents of the community periodically when things come up with Air Liquide. I don't think we want to be having committee for every particular business that wants to come into there. So having a liaison group, or you know, how can I say this? It would be an expedient way to handle those communications, but not just for what we do in the beginning. You got to look at it, okay, as it progresses into the operation phase of the development, and then as you progress into the changeover or sunsetting of that development, you got to think about how we're going to repurpose those buildings and how we're going to communicate to other businesses to come in and perhaps to relocate that. So I would say, before you get into how you want to structure the committee, figure out what you want the committee to actually do and accomplish. And that's what I tried to write in the paper that I sent to you guys before. The personnel and people, we're not ready to make those calls yet, in my opinion, and we're not ready to really structure that. Let's figure out what we want this committee to do, and then figure out how we want it to operate, and then figure out what the life cycle would be.
Thank you, Mark. Any other discussion, any other thoughts?
I'm not opposed to it at all.
I agree with what Mark said, that right now we're dealing with RPL, but soon enough we're going to be dealing with 12 or 13 businesses like Lamtech or even Ultra Poly and Air Liquide that having a group wouldn't be a bad thing, as those seats might be changing. I am for one or two of the supervisors to be on it, just so that we stay in the know as soon as things happen.
Yeah, Ron, you wanted to make a point?
How do we know we'd all be at this point right now? We should know that we'd have got to this point. You want to be friends with River Point. Many of you ran on a platform, you really didn't want River Point. In the beginning, they talked about industrial jobs, manufacturing, and then there was an authority. Then you didn't want an authority. I'm still waiting to see what the fee is for litigation for your new solicitor from Gross McGinley. Well, I can't picture why you would think you could sit down at this point in time with River Point, based on what some of you have done up to this point, and have any ability to look at River Point with a straight face and say, we'd like to work with you. I mean, it's somewhat of a comedy, really. I mean, there could have been some manufacturing, but again, you didn't want an authority. Authority would have been sewage and water. Okay, what's a lot of these manufacturing industries want? They want water and sewer because they're going to use that, okay? Warehouses, I don't think will use a great deal of water or sewer because, you know, you have a few toilets, maybe a couple of showers or whatever. Truck driver stops in, one thing or the other. So, I mean, you keep shooting yourself in the foot here and wonder what happened. I mean, it's actually comical to sit out here in the audience and watch some of the discussion here. Again, some of you never wanted River Point at all, remember? Did any of you forget this? You didn't want River Point at all.
Ron.
Well, they're there now. They got the approvals. They're in the right zone. And again, now you don't want warehouses, and you created a situation that is going to make it warehouses.
Ron, the River Point got just about everything it wanted with the last administration. They got basically walked through the park on everything they wanted. Now you have an administration that is saying, slow down, let's be more careful, let's get our ducks in a row. And that's what we're doing here. We're willing to talk to River Point, but we're not willing to bend over for River Point. We're not going to do that.
The difference is the previous administration had a vision. Maybe you didn't like their vision, but they did have a vision for an industrial park with manufacturing, with good jobs, and a lot of other benefits, okay? Many of the things that could have been expansions of the park and one thing or the other. That previous board that you keep wanting to thrash over and over, they at least had a vision. Right now, you five, no disrespect, you don't have a vision. There is no vision. You're trying to manufacture a vision. I don't know how you can manufacture that vision. Because again, some of you ran on the platform. You did not want River Point.
No, I think they ran on a platform that they wanted Upper Mount Bethel protected first. They weren't necessarily against development, but they wanted the right kind of development.
And if you are zoned in the real world of government, if you're zone I-1, you're zone I-2, it very specifically spells out in your zoning regulations what can go into that district. The vision that some of these people had, no, I don't have a problem with their vision. They wanted it to stay rural.
But they ended up passing, a text amendment that said we're going to forget about the zoning ordinance as is. So we got to live with what we have right now. So let's not dwell on the past and who's right and who's wrong. Let's figure out what we're going to do now, today.
But they did have a vision. There is no vision sitting here now.
Well, they should have communicated that vision more.
And Jonathan's trying to say, let's sit down with River Point and give them what we think we'd like to have. I mean, based on the damage you've done up to now, I don't know if I was River Point, whether I'd want to sit down because you've wreaked havoc on those people, the concerned citizens. You can laugh all you want to, John.
Well, I don't think we've given havoc.
You know
we put Upper Mount Bethel Township first. Okay. Now, I'm willing to talk to River Point, and that's what Jonathan is saying as well.
God bless
and
you.
I think all the supervisors are willing to talk to River Point. We're just trying to figure out the best way to go about it. The last administration, David Friedman and I had no clue of what was going on. We were kept in the dark. You can smile just as I can smile, but we both know it's true.
For 14 months, the previous board showed you what you were doing. You didn't want to pay attention to what they were showing you. I sat here. I remember what happened, okay? I didn't just get off the boat yesterday.
Okay.
But again, I'd like to ask Ms. Ekman, would you be willing to serve on a committee with River Point to work with them to see what they could do?
I would love for them to talk to all of us at the same time and for open communications with residents sitting right in the crowd. So if they would like to sit down and talk to me with residents and the board, absolutely, I'll talk to them.
See, now there's the difference. With residents and with the board and with you. But again, you got to keep in mind, these are the residents for lack of a better term, I'm a simple guy, this was the enemy of River Point. Why would they want to sit down now and make nice and be friends?
Because they still
I'm
need
trying to
to
be
make,
realistic
they
here.
want to make money. There's no doubt.
Okay, but again, I could be wrong here. Just one last quick thing. One of the things the people didn't want was warehouses. And I understand that argument, because there is warehouses that are vacant around the valley. Nobody wanted warehouses. Over on the other side of the river, $48,000 per acre, the state of New Jersey bought the land. Maybe you could get the state of Pennsylvania to come up with X number of dollars per acre to buy it over here. I don't think that's going to happen, but the bottom line is you're going to end up getting exactly, probably, what you didn't want. Maybe you will get the warehouses, okay? And you will get the truck traffic without the good paying jobs and all the stuff that goes with it, because that's what you created.
No, that's not
You know,
true.
you did.
That's
Okay,
not
you can
true.
say
Now
no
you're
all you
looking
want.
for a scapegoat right there. Look what you did to Upper Mount Bethel. That's not true. He could be putting warehouses in all along. I have no idea.
Oh.
I have no idea. He's never come, he told me in the beginning when he had certain manufacturers that wanted to come out here, and we were trying to see if we could make that happen, but I don't know in the past 2 years who he's spoken to, who he hasn't spoken to. So I have no idea. What we're trying to do is figure out ways to get manufacturers in here rather than warehouses. So we're not the scapegoat and saying, oh, look what you did. You didn't work with Pector. You made it hard. We're giving him a shot right now. Come and talk to the board. We'll try and work together and see what we can do.
So you made nice back then, and you sat down with them and you wanted manufacturing? Is that what you wanted back then?
That was before the text amendment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you want after the text amendment?
After the text amendment, I followed my engineer's advice and said, make it based upon conditional use and give the township more control.
And do you have that control now?
No, it's not in the text amendment.
Okay, so that evidently.
So how's
that
it this administration's fault? We're trying to correct the problem. Now, Ron, if you want to come to our office hours, we'll do more of a question answer, but I got to move
I'm not interested in
along.
office hours, but again, you, in the end, you will have created what the
In
folks.
3 months,
want.
they've created this,
Okay.
huh? 3 months they've been aboard.
All right,
3 months.
no, guys, we're going to move along. Let's move along. So,
There are certain things that we'd like to prevent, like changing the residential to have drip fields on it and to protect the residents. And I believe that we are trying to do that at the moment, and that is our course of action. Communicating with them on what we're trying to do so that we're not butting heads in the future, I think is very important.
so what do we want to, maybe we need to think about this more, because I don't think we have a definite answer. I think we've got, you saying 2 supervisors, liaison, you saying come up in front of the whole board. Jason, David, you guys want to chime in? Okay. Then,
There is the committee of the citizens that they put for the liaison position. How many people are on the committee?
Well, there was 4 plus John, but I copied all of those people on the email message that I sent to you guys, and I haven't heard from any of them. So I'm gonna say right now, it's wide open. It's
Okay.
wide open, John.
okay.
Given what I said about in the future, we might be dealing with 12 to 13 larger businesses. Having something like that, I don't think is such a bad idea, and we can do it as the industrial committee, that they can communicate with all the smaller businesses, and if they wanted to donate money, then we have another way to kind of siphon that out.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we table this for now. Yeah. Or let me make the motion and then you can,
It's only because it's Lisa Pector commenting on Facebook.
yeah.
I want to read her comments. She asked me if I could interrupt you to read out her comments so you guys can hear it.
Yeah, go for it.
She said, how about we start with the tour of the property, 2 supervisors at a time, so as to not breach sunshine laws. Maybe that will help to, I think she got cut off. Maybe that is a way to start over with explaining our vision and the goals we are trying to
Okay, thank you, Stavros. Thoughts?
So that's almost like a rotational crew of all the supervisors? Would that satisfy you, being that they're talking to all of us, just not all at once?
I mean, you haven't seen the property, so, you know, maybe it would answer some of your questions. We've seen the property,
It absolutely would, I just
so,
didn't.
but I still don't feel it should just be one super, if he's gonna do it, and take Lisa up on that, which, you know, I think is a good option, so he's more familiar with the property. We've grown up here, a lot of us know the property. He should go with somebody else, I'm not throwing Nick out there, but somebody, so that way it's still open, you know, so
And-
just an
Yeah.
idea.
Also, what Fred said earlier about meeting with Teal as he was the past RPL liaison, that might help us get a better feel. I don't think it's the best idea, but since you did mention it at the beginning, I'm readdressing it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that route. I just don't want the
I
planning
understand.
commission.
I'm fine with
and-
that.
Yeah.
You better table
Um,
it, that's what you usually do. Table it, John, that's what you usually do.
I appreciate the advice, Ron, but I'm not taking it. All right, moving on. So you're gonna contact Lisa, take a tour of the ground.
I can. I did not reach out to anyone at RPL. I'd like the approval of the citizens as well as the council because of the things that have happened in the past.
I think it's fine if you do take Nick with you, and then come back and report to us.
Okay.
Great. All right. And
I feel like I'm in the army again.
what?
So instead of Mr. Birmingham tabling it, I'll make the motion to table the liaison.
Okay. Do we have a second? Ron will second it. No. Okay. I will second it. Any other discussion?
Is John gonna still reach out and get some more information?
Yeah, he's going to contact Lisa and take a tour of the property.
I'm
Ron,
gonna
please.
go with John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it's been a motion to table it. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, community park bathrooms update. Nick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I finally got some good news from the county, from Frank Brooks. We were discussing the $60,000 grant that we applied for that was holding us up for spending money. It's just a common thing with grants, like I said before, that they kind of dictate what you can do, when you can do it, when you're asking for money. So anyway, I explained to him what we were going to do, and he said that we can start working and spend the money because it's a replacement money. You know, since we spend the money, then you get the money back. So we already have the funding locked up. So we're going to move forward, which is good news. Also, because of the reasons being that you know, spring is coming, and also Stavros has his fields. They're going to be utilizing the fields, and we don't want to have a construction site going on there when there's kids running around and things like that. So we want to get it rolling. So I'm going to meet with Scott Policelli, who already has the schematics done for the septic. That's all approved. We're going to do the work for it, though. Our highway department's going to do the work, so it's going to save us a ton of money. So we just have to pay for materials. And that was one of the other reasons why we got that big excavator. The other thing is, Justin sent me a letter. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but I'll mention it obviously again. We have the contractor that is actually going to do the work. They're co-stars, so we don't need another bid. And Troy Mechanical Incorporated, and the total cost is $148,505. We're going to need an approval for them to move forward because obviously they have to order the fixtures and things like that. He said that he needed a month to complete the job. So our goal was to Supervisor Birmingham was to get flushing bathrooms, toilets by July 4th for our big event for July 4th. So I think we can get it in there before that, but that's my goal too. And I think the goal for the community is to finally have bathrooms there. And for Mr. Post, who donated $100,000 3 or 4 years ago, he's very happy, excited about this is becoming to fruition. We need to get, the first step is to get this approved by the board for the expenditures for the money for Troy Mechanical Incorporated to start moving this project forward. I do have a letter from Carroll Engineering, and I'd like to read it for Justin. He couldn't be here tonight. Justin couldn't be here tonight. He had a hearing that he had to go to in Nazareth, so he called me to apologize that he couldn't be here. But I'll read it out to everybody. That's addressed to me. We have reviewed the CoStar's bid received from Troy Mechanical for the community park restrooms. The bid is based upon the architectural plans prepared by Portner and Hecky, dated April 26, 2021, pertaining to the structural, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical aspects of the project. Based upon review of this bid, we recommend awarding the contract to Troy Mechanical in the amount of $148,505. Should you have any questions or require additional information, please feel free to contact this office. Very truly yours, Justin. So
Thank you, Nick. Any questions from the supervisors?
No, just to reiterate that the Post donation, that was $100,000, and that was ear tagged just for that.
just for bed, that's what it was,
So
yes.
everybody, so that sticks in.
Yeah, it was targeted just for the bathrooms.
And Nick, you also put in the budget money aside.
Yeah, I did put $100,000 budgeted for the bathrooms because we knew that that project was going to be put in place. I don't foresee, you never know, spending that money, $100,000. We are going to have to spend, obviously, the $43,000, and then probably like $20,000 maximum for the septic tank, since we're doing the work. But again, we're going to be getting reimbursed $60,000, which is probably going to take up most of that cost. So technically, we probably will have that close to $100,000 left over. But let's see what, you never know what happens when you're doing a project like that. If anybody's done a big project, everybody knows it kind of gets a little budgety. So, but we're in good shape for it. So we're prepared to move forward with it, and I think that it's going to be a great project for the township and for the community.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go with Troy Mechanical.
Did you want to say something? You were raising?
Let me make the motion first.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we go with Troy Mechanical in the amount of $148,505 to install the restrooms up at the community park.
I'll second.
Did you want to make a point?
Just one item.
And just give your name again, Stavros.
Stavros Barbonis, Potomac Street. Chairman Parks and Rec. Out of the 100,000 donation, Parks and Rec did spend $700 of that, so you have 99,300 remaining for that. And then we do have other projects that we could use that money for, like finishing the pavilion, just throwing it out there. Yeah.
I don't want to say anything, but Diane already told me about that.
Okay.
As you can tell.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nick. And so, Nick, when do they think they'll start building?
Well, we're gonna start with, I'll call Troy Mechanical, I think his name is Todd. I'll call him tomorrow, let him know that he was awarded the bid so he could order his supplies and stuff. And Scott just emailed me before, the meeting that we're gonna sit down and go over the septic, because we have to go over with Lynn and Dave, Constable, and figure out how long it's gonna take us to do it about, and the supplies that we're gonna need, the piping and things like that. So Scott's gonna lead them through it.
Okay, all right, thank you, Nick. Next up is LERTA support letter for Northampton County. So this was based off Lamont McClure's presentation when he came here, county executive for Northampton County. About a month or so ago, I think he was here, and talked about coming up with a new ordinance for LERTA that he's going to introduce for Northampton County. He asked us for a letter of support, and we tabled it, and now it's back on the agenda, so it's open for discussion.
We had asked him to send a draft. I believe he only sent the one draft, didn't he, Cindy? And so that was that's the draft that we'll have to go by and base our decision on.
Right.
So I don't know if the supervisors want to sit down and read that letter again, just so they can come up with any, if they feel there should be a letter of support or not. But did he give a timeline when he's going to introduce this to council?
No, he didn't give us a timeline yet. He didn't say I need it by a certain date.
He's trying to line up the votes on council.
Hey, I don't know his strategy.
Maybe we should contact him and find out when he plans on introducing this. And then maybe we can draft this letter of support. I don't know how we want to do this, individually or one letter that we all sign, or
It'd be one letter we all sign. What's that, Jason?
Could we put it on the agenda?
We could put it on the agenda for the next meeting, that we will have a letter of support.
All right, Cindy, let's throw it on for the 8th, please. And then let's all take a look, since, of the draft ordinance that he sent us, and make sure we're all ready to go, and, yay or nay on the 8th. I lost my agenda, hold on. Thanks. Okay, next up is road crew hiring.
Yes. So we discussed this last meeting in the executive session. We wait till, I think what we wanted to do is make sure they got almost 90 days in the job for probationary, which they're drawing close to it. But I wholeheartedly, these guys, Todd Pinto and Brock Pearson, nothing but good things. They great fit with the township highway department as is. Lynn Manzai and Dave Constable. Todd has been doing great right off the bat, and Brock, good kid, and I 100% agree that we should hire them onto the highway department. I don't know if there's any questions or more discussion that you want. Brock Pearson, his rate would be $26.45, which is the highway, which comes from the contract with the Teamsters, 773. And Todd Pinto, just because he has a lot of experience, more than Brock. And Brock is doing a great job, and we'll see how that goes with his experience with the machinery and stuff. But Todd will be getting $29.39. It's all based on experience. Not that Brock can't do it. It's just that he just needs a little bit more.
You mean $29.39, right?
I'm sorry. Did I say? What did I? Yes.
Okay.
What did I give it to him?
You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So and Basically, if you hired them tonight, tomorrow, we're gonna have a coin toss, because they're getting hired at the same time, for seniority, so tomorrow will be a special event.
So so for Brock and Todd? Right.
Yeah, since they're hired at the same time, according to their union contract, it's a coin toss to see who's on seniority. It just basically means when, really, the overtime, something like that, who gets called.
And David, any, being the road crew liaison, any input you want here?
Now, I concur with Mr. Graziano. I've talked to the assistant foreman, I've talked to the foreman, I've gone out and watched them work, and I wholeheartedly agree that I think we have two good men that we'll be hiring.
Okay, any other questions from the supervisors? Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
And that being said, Mr. I make a motion that we hire Brock Pearson and Todd Pinto at the rates that Mr. Graziano specified.
So that would be $26.45 for Brock
Yes.
and $29.39 for Todd.
With
Correct.
all the benefits that were negotiated with Teamsters Local, what is it?
773.
That's my motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go into part 9, now part 9. This is public comment. 3 minutes for public comment for anybody who wants to come up and make a comment.
Took care of that with the government. Moved up.
Judy, come on up.
Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. I don't know. I think between Mr. Angle and myself, we're just waiting to see which one dies first. Because honestly, I am so fed up with what's going on. It's like people have their minds made up and they just can't conceivably think that they're not right. And I appreciate what Jonathan's trying to do. You could get the most open-minded people, none of us here, because we're going to point to them and say, no, we don't believe them, no, we don't believe them. And you're just constantly fighting amongst ourselves. So even the most open-minded people who want to sit down with the developer, who a lot of us don't think we can trust, even if you come out with a resolution at the end, half the people aren't going to believe it. They're going to tell you, oh my God, you did something wrong, you did this, or you did that, I don't believe what you're saying, and we're back to square one. I mean, why? Mark gave you a good idea of how you sit down and holistically look at the big picture and how you move from the present to the future, and hopefully you can't give, you don't have a crystal ball, but know along the way that you have to make some changes. So, I wholeheartedly am glad I'm not on that side of the table, and I wish you luck, but I'm not sure sitting down with the developer is going to help. If you can find people to do it, and then when they come back, you can find enough of us to believe it, good luck.
Thank you, Judy. Hold on, Mike, 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
Michael Onufrak, Summerfield Drive, Mount Bethel. I think to criticize this board, who's only been in existence for 3 months, and this RPL project has been on the table for, 4 years. So to criticize this board for RPL's problems is ridiculous. The previous board, somebody claims had a vision. Well, their vision was never expressed clearly to the residents of this town, and maybe had they done that, there wouldn't be so much opposition. And somebody has talked about, well, it's zoned I2, I3, they're allowed to do it. Well, they're not allowed to put a drip irrigation field on an R1, and yet they want to do it. So I don't think it's right to criticize this board at this time. There's plenty of time down the road if they screw up, but not for what they're doing right now. The previous board could care less what the residents of this town wanted, except for a certain few that they accommodated. Like I said, if the past board, and they were asked numerous times to explain the benefits of this project, not just there's going to be jobs, who knows how many jobs are going to be created, but what we do know is the amount of traffic that's going to take place. And there were no plans, no vision on how we're going to handle that problem. So my advice to anybody that wants to criticize this board, the RPL, they're way out of line. They're way out of line, and they should keep their mouths shut. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, hold on one second, Bill. Okay, come on up, thanks.
Thank you. Bill Hall, Jacoby Run Road, Upper Mount Bethel. Just to answer your question that you said, or comment on your question, or your comment a minute ago about not knowing what they're going to put in here. So how do you know how much traffic there's going to be? I rest my case on that point. That wasn't very well made. I've said this many times. I don't like to hear myself repeat myself all the time, but in this case, again, I need to. 3 years ago, I went down to see Lou Pector myself with a few other people, Scott Coley, Anthony DeFranco, asked to talk to him, and he said, what can I do for you? And I said, we have some concerns. I have some concerns because I live there. There's kinds of businesses we want, and there's kinds of businesses we don't want. What are your intentions? He said, Bill, what don't you want? I've never, ever had a developer ask me that, ever. And I've worked with a lot of them in a lot of projects around the world. Never one time. And I said, what we don't want are warehouses. We're looking at manufacturing, we want jobs. We also want taxes that'll help pay our bills that we can't pay right now. So I know I'm repeating myself. You've heard me say this many times. Judy, you've heard me say it here and in Economic Development Committee meetings. But he said, Lou Pector said at the time, I don't want warehouses either. He said, if that's what you don't want, this is what we'll work on. So everybody gets up and starts talking about, on one hand, what we know they're going to do, and then what we don't know what they're going to do. So I think the right thing to do, and you made a good point, is to sit down and listen to each other and have a conversation. And not, as you mentioned, Judy, have our minds made up ahead of time. That goes both ways. Okay?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Anyone else, public comment?
I'd like to say something.
Oh, Fred, let's get
Sorry,
Fred
go
and
ahead.
then Jonathan, you're up.
Good evening, Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Upper Mount Bethel. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. For this session, I would like to discuss my way or the highway. After some positive comments I made about a current supervisor at a recent meeting, I was asked privately how much this board was paying me. I understand the question was the rhetorical style often used by this questioner, but is also indicative of the stance that there are only two sides in this town, a flawed contention. There are as many sides in this town as there are residents. The spectrum ranges from people who are totally disinterested in any given town issue to those who hyper-focus on their pet issues. The only two sides argument is made worse by the implication that individuals that don't agree with your side don't deserve respect. When I defended the former board's right and obligation to do what they believed to be in the best interest of this town, I was not asked how much they were paying me. I reached out to them to discuss our differences when we did not agree on an issue and received nothing but respectful treatment from them. And I returned this sentiment, even when we agreed to disagree. As for my differences with this board, I might not have voted to dissolve the municipal authority without meeting with them first. And I say this as someone who has expressed serious reservations about the establishment of this authority. I also recognize there are often factors that we in the public are not aware of, for example, the legal ramifications of delaying the decision to dissolve the authority. I reject the prison of two ideas, framing that you are either against the current board on all issues or you're on their payroll, just as I rejected the idea that the former board was either against the RPL development or on their payroll. This is an argument approach of those that will not or cannot support their positions, and I ask that everyone be on the lookout. Don't walk willingly into the thought prison they are offering you. Make them prove they're on the right side of the issue using well-crafted logical arguments. And thank you all for not throwing your bottles at me at my last time up.
Thank you, Fred. Got some good comedy going on here tonight. Go ahead, Mark. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Jonathan wanted to make a comment. Sorry, Jonathan, go ahead.
I just wanted to state a concern that I do have about the emergency shelter that is going to be created using grant money. Given the current situation in New York and New Jersey, I discovered that all of their emergency facilities are currently being occupied by migrants. And I would like to know if us using grant money would put us into that realm, that we cannot deny the states or the federal government's use of our facility for whatever reason they deem an emergency.
Okay. Thank you. So Eleanor, Mark, whoever.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court. You know, in order for this development out in the I-2 zone to be successful, the developer's going to have to deal with availability of labor, the high cost of that labor. It's going to have to deal with the infrastructure associated with water, sewer, traffic, okay, stormwater management. All of these things, as this project matures, are going to become serious business issues to deal with. I think that, from what I can see, he's either going to give up, in which case the town should probably make an offer for the property and then try to look at a new type of concept for that area. There's no question in my mind the township's going to need an economic driver. The question is what is that driver going to be? There was no options given when this plan put in there, and if you look at the design of all of those plans, and I've looked at them all, they're all big box warehouse designs, okay? Manufacturers, even if you give them the authority, even if you say that they can have the drip field on the R1, it's still not going to be enough to attract major businesses to this area, because the biggest problem with water and sewer for manufacturing is process waste. Normally, the factories I visited, process waste and raw materials, you have tank farms out there. Where is he going to put those tank farms in the design that he's got? He's going to have to redesign the thing. So that's where we are with this. I don't believe that anytime soon he's going to see any prospective buyers for that property. And the way to make it attractive is to come up with a different kind of design altogether. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Eleanor.
Eleanor Shelton, 943 Hayden Road. I wasn't going to comment. I am so tired of what I might call some particular unconcerned citizens who continue to get up and criticize you all for doing a very difficult job, which I applaud you for reaching out to RPL, and I believe that if RPL doesn't want to build warehouses, if, as they say, they want to put in manufacturing, they will come and talk to you, because you represent this township, and if they want to be successful, they need to talk with you. I mean, there's speculation about warehouses, but it's speculation. If they want to put in manufacturing, they'll try and do it. There's speculation about traffic. It's speculation. But it's speculation because there's speculation about who the tenants will be. The buildings are being built on spec. The whole thing is speculation. So we can be forgiven for asking questions, but we shouldn't be pilloried. And I feel like if you're not going to be concerned about the consequences of this development to your neighbors, and if you need to make misrepresentations about various people's motivations for being on this board or for asking questions at all, if you're not going to be concerned about the solution to this problem, particularly sewer, being a moot point because those residences will be gone because 611 needs to be wider, and various other negative effects like a sewer system in a residential area where it shouldn't be, then you're unconcerned about them, and that's fine. But do not vilify the people who are concerned, and certainly don't vilify the people who are trying to make it better, which is you guys. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, public comment? Yeah, come on up, Joe.
Joe Torrey, 535 Institute Road. This has nothing to do with River Point. You were talking earlier about spending. I have a question back here. Not this committee, not any of you up here, so don't take it personal. But wasn't it at one time, the vehicles you have in here were, when they break down, they went all the way to Allentown or Bethlehem to be repaired. Is that true? 4.5 miles away, we have a man that's a good mechanic, A1, top notch.
Who are you talking about?
What are we talking about, Joe?
I don't want to be too specific. I'm just going to say, you talk about spending, and I said it's not this board, it's not you, Nick, but it was allowed.
There was a local mechanic who...
You were using a local mechanic. Who was it, Dave?
That's
Chad.
Dixie.
Chad Hart.
Chad Hart, that's who it was.
Are you going to go back to him?
We should.
He's been back since the first of the year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we did start using him.
Yeah, he actually worked twice already.
Yeah, that was a good move. Anyone else, public comment? Come on up, Ron.
As to what Bill Hall said.
Oh, just give your name,
Ron,
please.
Mount Bethel.
Thanks.
As to what Bill Hall said, he's correct. The original concept was manufacturing. That was the original concept. But all this now has changed that. But I have a question. We get a bargain with Mr. Karasak at $125 an hour. With his experience, he probably should get $300 an hour. But in the meantime, you hired another solicitor to oppose the authority. And I think you said he's getting $160 an hour. But you have never set the pay yet for his litigation. That's to attend meetings. I would, and you could check with your solicitor, but I would think the zoning hearing board, by the way, is quasi-judicial. So he is making an appearance before a court. What is his now hourly rate for those appearances?
He's staying at 160.
And if he goes to Northampton County Court, it's still 160?
I believe so, yeah.
You said you believe so. I'd like to know.
Why are you looking at Karasak?
Well, because I can guarantee you that I don't know a lawyer in the Lehigh Valley who gets X number of dollars here and doesn't get much more to go to court with litigation. Would that be a correct assessment?
That is true, but for the township, because I live here and I've been here for over 30 years, my fee is the same, whether I go to court, whether I come here, whether I go somewhere else.
You're a bargain,
It's
undisputed.
$135 an hour, that's it. Doesn't matter whether I go to court or not go to court or however it works.
Okay,
But there are lawyers who do a office charge and a court charge and things like that.
So you say you believe, but I
Yeah,
guess.
he hasn't given me any other fee except 160.
So wouldn't you want to know when you hired him, what the fee would be to come to meetings and what the fee would be
I'll
if he has to
follow
do
up with
litigation?
him, but he told me 160 an hour,
No matter what?
no matter what.
Okay, one last question, and I'll get it in quick. At the last meeting, you went into executive session to talk about personnel. You said it was personnel. When you come out, I pointed out to you, it was not personnel. This was a contract employee, wasn't a personnel issue, which is a violation of the Sunshine Law. Maybe again, you could check with Mr. Karasak. He's very knowledgeable about the Sunshine Law.
Yeah, we already did.
Okay, what did he tell you?
He said we were fine. Why are you looking at Karasak again? Would you have a call with him today?
A contract is personnel, a contract employee?
You got 26 seconds, Ron.
No problem.
The information with which I was provided made me understand it to be a personnel matter. That's the best I can tell you.
Again, the information you were provided might not exactly been the information.
8, 7.
Thank you, Ron. All right. Anyone else public comment?
Yeah, my public comment. I didn't hear anybody complain when Koza Law Firm was getting $300 an hour.
And he worked for Texter's lawyer here before.
How much you paying me for the ethics commission?
Okay, all right, guys. See, this is why we need whiskey in the back room. We should all be having a few drinks and relaxing. Stop.
Probably less than you were paying when you had your will problem.
Yeah, that's what he tell you. Yeah, and who's paying that?
All right, guys. Let's get back to our whiskey committee, Stavros. No, are we going into executive session? I don't think we have anything.
I don't have anything for executive session.
I don't have anything. Okay. That being said, can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, one last thing. I forgot to mention I was going to be doing office hours April 16th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. and it'll be right here at the Township building.
6:30 to what?
6:30 to 7:30 on April 16th. And let me know who's stopping by yours, John, if you have another supervisor. If not, I'll try and get by if no one else can. I'll say hello. We'll see. Okay, with that said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion, second.
Wait, you made the motion and seconded?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?